Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel. With me, I've got Lois Perry, who's the director of Karma26.org, former editor of the Labourist Peter Edwards, and Stephen Pound, former Labour MP. Right, I'm going to start with you, Lois, first, because you are a woman. What do you think?
Biological woman with a womb and everything.
Well, that cis.
Don't say that. That's terrible.
See, I don't like. Why do I have to put biological in front? That really irritates me.
I think this is a good idea. I was saying before, my nan had some physio recently, and the lady that did the physio did female rugby, and she stopped doing it because the amount of women that were getting hospitalised by men who transitioned, as adults, and were literally, they were literally putting these poor female rugby players, and I say poor female, they're probably still huge and impressive, they were putting them in hospital because men have 40% more muscle mass. They are stronger. Even if their testosterone levels are lowered or they have surgery, they're still stronger.
So obviously that's your experience and what you've experienced speaking to this woman.
Just that, the interesting thing as well, my trans friends that I've got are such gentle, loving, gorgeous people, and I just think that this whole issue has been weaponised to cause culture war type problems, everyone fighting and hating each other. I don't...
Because it seems so ridiculous to me. There's nothing wrong with being a trans woman or a trans man.
No, but you need to go through the process, the proper process.
But having gone through the process and done everything that you should do, then at that point, there literally is nothing wrong with it. But we have to be realistic about what that means. So if a man becomes a trans woman, we have to accept
he's still
that
really strong.
Has the strength of a man. What do you think?
Well, I think a lot of other sports will be looking at what the World Boxing Council does very closely, because I think sport is for everyone, and so is dignity, but so is safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the head of the WBC saying you can't have someone born as a man fighting someone born as a woman is a pretty common sense point.
It's obvious, isn't it?
Pretty common sense point to make. And I think you cited the example of Leah Thomas, who won a global swimming event. I'm sorry, I can't remember whether it was, I don't think it was Olympics, but which swimming competition. But even post-transition...
European athletics.
Leah Thomas had a big height and probably a weight advantage because she had much broader shoulders.
She also had a penis and a girlfriend.
OK, so we need
I don't know about this. Again, I can't
That might have slowed her down.
I can't clarify that myself, but I think I don't know whether she transitioned. I don't know whether she had a girlfriend.
Well, the other swimmers complained that she was getting changed in the changing room, and you could see everything, and it made them feel uncomfortable, and they were just told that they had to shut up. That's what I read.
Well, I find that horrendous. Look, there are strange cases. I mean, Caster Semenya, the South African runner. I mean, they've not been able to define what her sexuality is or her. And there are cases like that.
Yes.
There are people like we mentioned earlier on about Jan Morris and April Ashley, who were demonstrably women born in the wrong body, and it was a corrective one. But I think we're in danger of actually dancing on the head of a pin here, because if we're going to have categories, subcategories, sideways categories, semi-categories, where on earth does it stop?
So put yourself in my position. I'm a woman. Yeah. OK, I'm a woman, female rugby player. I'm going to play rugby. Yeah. And there's somebody, you as a man, you've transitioned and you are now female.
Depends.
No, but I'm just saying, in terms of strength, though, you have to accept that this is not about. It is not about being transphobic or not. No. This has nothing to do with. This is about just the physicality of the anatomy and physiology of the different sexes, and the advantages that one will have in a certain situation in terms of sport.
Enough people get injured in sport as it is already. There's no way on God's green earth that I would want my daughter, my daughter played rugby at university, to be coming up against a front row forward who had been a man.
Exactly. That's all it is.
Can we just start 2023 and by saying, let's actually be a little bit sensible about this once in a while. Stop all this flipping nonsense about subcategories and just say, look, there are certain things which are so bloody obvious.
Pardon the language, sorry.
Oh, I do beg your pardon. So,
no swearing, please.
Well, that was hard. OK, all right.
That's why subcategories are a good idea, surely, to prevent what you're saying, your daughter being up against a man that's transitioned into a woman and getting really badly hurt.
But are we talking about different leagues then?
No,
I'm sorry, the logic of different categories is different leagues.
You could have a league of this and that. I mean, you have leagues in football. This is not what we're saying. We're actually talking about whether it is reasonable to have a man, somebody who's maybe trans woman, playing against somebody who is a woman.
Agree, but
what we're saying, we're comparing bodies. We're not comparing. We're saying that these two bodies are different. When it comes to sport, you have to look at them as bodies and acknowledge that there is a difference in strength and physicality. And with that comes is safety. So we need to put safety first.
Weren't you implying that you would actually approve the idea of having a separate transgender league?
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely.
Okay, look, at the moment we've got the Premier League, we've got the Women's Premier League. There's no argument about that. Yeah, no. I'm just saying, do you want to have a third, fourth, fifth?
So you'd rather compromise safety?
No, I would say no.
You're saying is not let trans people play at all?
I would say let trans people play by all means, but not in a state of before they've completed transition.
But it doesn't matter because they can complete transition, but they've still got the physical bulk of them. Even the most weakling man, and I'm pretty strong, I go to the gym, could probably overpower me. Even like Mr. Muscle, the guy, you know, in the advert and that thing in the 90s, whatever, could probably overpower me, right? But it doesn't make much difference. It's the muscle mass. It doesn't matter how developed it is. Men are stronger than women. They just
to be honest, though, my money be on you again. But hang on a second. But where do you? Are you? Because on the one hand, you're saying, are you denying trans people the right to participate in sport?
No, well, that's why the subcategory I think is a good idea.
Okay, so what sport can a man who was a woman is transitioning? What sport can they participate?
Well, let's ask Peter. What sport? Any sport where physical strength, as in
or no physical contact. Yeah.
What do you think, Peter?
Well, let me make a practical, because one of you mentioned the culture wars, and actually, you know, let's try and start 2023 on where we agree and be positive. So in football and tennis, there's a men's competition, a women's competition.
Exactly.
But in boxing, there's already multiple different categories by weight.
Yes, you're right.
Hold on.
I was agreeing with you.
Okay. So if you can kind of segment a particular sport already, men's boxing, women's boxing, is then divided by weight. Maybe you can divide it in other ways as well. There's never been that need in football or tennis, for example. So on a practical point, maybe there could be another category.
No, I don't see what the harm would be. I think it's because sport is about comparing bodies, isn't it? It's about one person being stronger than another and putting them into a situation where there's a competition element and to find out who wins that competition. It's not about beating someone senseless because you've got a physical advantage for being a man and you're actually and you're sort of working, sort of competing against a woman.
I mean, it's not just about physical strength. It's about skill. Look at darts. You've now got women are not just competing with men in the world darts; they're actually beating men.
Yeah, but
they're not beating them on the head, are they?
Exactly. That's a very good point and a great one to end on. And as with Leah Thomas, we don't know. I mean, Lois was just supposing that we don't know what the situation was in the changing rooms at all.